good morning or evening or afternoon or whatever time it is. I'm just testing out my overlays here. Picking up from where the last video left off, actually. There's a few things that I actually have to do still, which I will show you as I go along. But basically, I'm trying to create this effect using interface overlays that will pan around if the rover's too close to the edge of the camera, but normally it'll be in the middle. And one's a big static layer. This looks crazy because it's huge, and it's going to actually have to be huger. And then there's this dark layer that you can barely see. You can see the grid through it, but let's put those back. What they're doing is they are blending with each other in a very specific way. The layer underneath it, I don't know if I can hide this right off the bat. Let me try. I don't know that it removes it. It doesn't. So I don't want it to be invisible right now, but the darker layer, the black layer behind it, is a regular, normal, boring overlay graphic. There's no additive blending or anything. Let me pull it up. It's easier to see it if I pull it up in the Sprite editor, I think. If you didn't watch the last video, this is basically the white background, and if I zoom out, you can see this is it's like a light overlay, sort of, kind of to give this ridge of light. Now, I've actually found that I need to do some adjusting to my gradient because this rim here is a bit bright in game. You can see it. I'm going to do some fiddling. So just to give an example, I'll show that. And I want to cut this out of the walking pose, actually, and put it over here. Da-da-da-da. And then there's this static layer, visibility static, and it's set to additive, which you can't see with the white background, but this black area will actually blend out because it's black. Anything that's black when it's additive, it's transparent. So that's going to overlay with this transparent black circle kind of thing. I'm sure some of you've probably done, if you've worked with 001 or any other game engine doing 2D games, you might have made light effects using a little circle kind of like this, and you can see as it moves around on the grid that effect. But you can also see this rim around the edge that I kind of want to fix. There's a few things that I'm going to have to do still to explain this effect if you're not familiar. Since 001 doesn't have a masking or any other blending method really that you could do this trick with, normally I would just use a black gradient to blend out a spot on a black screen, or another black graphic, but you can't blend out areas. You can only like brighten them. So that's what additive blending does. It adds the values together and you get really bright overlays. It's really good for doing glows and lighting effects and lasers and projectiles and other stuff like that. But I heard a thumping noise behind me. I'm working overnight all by myself. And I don't know what that was, but okay. Spooky. Meanwhile, this graphic here, right now it's the width of my camera field. It's actually higher because anytime that the rover gets close enough to the edge of the map, the camera stops panning with the rover, and I need this effect, this overlay, to follow the rover to the edge of the camera. And I'll demonstrate that with a quick run through. kind of showed it at the very beginning, but this is the idea. You'll see that I need to fix a few things, and you'll see how this effect is created. I know I should probably just make a quick button that jumps through all of this so I don't have to play through it every time. So you'll see that it's offset here, but it's because it's positioned to where the rover is on screen, so that when it's close to the edge of the screen, this overlay still maintains its position to stay in line with the rover. So as you drive around on screen, you can see that the map is kind of obscured by this static, or really obscured, but when you get to the tops of the screen, it still has to follow the rover, otherwise the rover drives up underneath it. And in the last video I was really struggling with the math because I absolutely suck at math, unfortunately, so I have to brainstorm and try all kinds of different things sometimes before I get anything to work. But you'll see as you get to the edges of the map, the camera stops panning, but the effect stays in line with the rover. And if I turn that off, excuse me, if I turn off the static layer, you can still see the lighting layer underneath, and you can sort of see this lighter rim where, I'm not sure why it's doing that, but I think I know how I can fix that. Go away. These Corel ads pop up a lot because I have some Corel software. But you'll see it can also be used just as a sort of light and dark, or a light area. If I were to make the rest of this transparent, it would kind of make it look like the map is darker outside this ring. So you could use this kind of effect for, you know, flashlights or a light overlay. And the positioning was the tricky part. Getting an interface field to position to where the rover is, even when it gets close to the edge of the map, was bonkers. So I'll break that down too, and just show you how I came to it. Turn that static back on because I like it. Doop. And it's a combination of the two layers that produces this transparent edge here, where the static and the black line up almost perfectly because it's the exact same gradient used on both layers. And I can use one or the other, but if I turn off the black layer, this static is just crazy bright, which could be a useful effect in its own way. As of right now, I'm not certain. I might do something like that and try and darken it a little bit with another layer, but I still have to do some experimenting, and I also have to resize these layers because, as you noticed, when I get too close to the edge here, it cuts off, and I just need to increase the width so that this is half the size of the camera width, so it's about 320. Since the camera width is 640, I just need another 320 on each side, actually, so it has to increase by 640 pixels in both directions. So that'll be a single graphic that is 1280 in width, and that's a bit nuts. But to do this effect effectively, unfortunately, since there's no masking or blending, alternate blending modes, I'm mostly stuck with this workaround. So it's already the right height because it's 640 in height, which is twice the height of the camera field. Since the camera is 640 in width, half of that is 320, so this is double 320, so 640 in height. So it'll only ever be able to move up or down 320, so it'll stop here or at the top. I can't move it that high. But let's pop into one of these and check out the positioning. So I'm currently using the update real time on this because the retrieve position use values here, I actually think this might be true. I think they're more performance friendly than using a timer to position fields. I am not 100% sure, but I've noticed a difference in my frame rate, and I've definitely noticed that turning some things from using a timer into using these retrieve position fields, that I got smoother movement. You don't have to set a timer to 0.001 or anything. You can just use this retrieve position field, and what it's doing is it's checking to make sure that the actor or the rover's X position is, if this is, I forgot to comment all these, but this is checking, is the rover too close to the left edge of the map? This one checks for the right side. Is the rover too close to the edge? So these are just checking when the rover is close enough to the boundaries of the map. Since the camera is locked to the map boundary, it won't continue panning once the rover reaches the edge of the map. It'll stay centered and the rover will drive off from the center of the camera. So I want it to check if the rover is close enough to the edge of the map to stop the camera from panning. So I just need to check if the position of the rover is less than the size of the camera divided by 2. And this could be manually just 320. I could just put 320 in there. But in case I ever want to change the size of the camera field in the future, this math will just take care of that. If I stretch the width any wider, it'll just divide it by 2 and give me the same results. So sometimes it's helpful to do that instead of just using a static value of 320. And this set the rover, overlay X position. Some of these I copied and pasted from a different script originally, so they've got some older comments. I do like to clear these out and make sure everything has some kind of commenting, because I want to be able to understand it later. If I don't know if you've ever done this with a project that you were just in the middle of and you were totally wrapped around it. You knew what you were doing, took a break for a couple weeks, then you come back and everything just totally looks absolutely foreign, alien. You don't know where you were. Opening some of your old code or scripts is just a nightmare because you forgot to comment things. Everything's just in a web. You didn't use clear variable names. So one way to clean up everything is to add comments, and this variable here, highlight X, is not what I want to use because it's not very clear. I do want to change it so it says overlay X. And I don't even think I'm using this camera X variable. I'm not sure why it's there, so I'm going to get rid of it. Overlay X is what I'm going to change this to. And do the same for all of these, so that's clearer. For future me, I will thank myself. You will thank yourself if you do the same thing. Oops. So this is where it got a bit confusing at first. I spent forever just fiddling around trying to get everything right and failing over and over until I realized how to break it down. I might use paint here, so I've got the boundary of my map. And then on top of that, if I increase this size here, let's actually make that a smaller. This is my map. Then I have my interface, which I'll just fill in with a bucket. And I'll draw my camera field with a square. Right in the middle is my camera field. So this has its own dimensions, 640 by 320. And the map itself is actually a square. I accidentally drew a rectangle. Let's pretend this is a square. And in 001, every single tile is 32 pixels by 32 pixels. So if my map is 50 by 50, that gives me 1600. 50 by 50, or 50 times 32, it's going to be 1600 by 1600 pixels wide by pixels tall. And so I can just put this value in here just to keep track. 1600 by 1600. And this guy down here is 640 by 320. I spent way too long probably trying all kinds of different versions of this before I got some sleep, really, and thought over everything again and tackled it again. That's another tip. If you're ever working on a project and you're just stumped, take a nap or something. Take a break. If you're really struggling, stop struggling, take a break, give your brain some rest, eat a sandwich or something, and come back to it later, and you will probably figure it out later, because it was much simpler than I thought. So if the rover is close enough to the edge of the map, so what this is checking is if the rover's X position is less than half the size of the camera. So the position of the camera itself is actually in the corner. So the camera's orientation, or its position, is about 233 pixels, I think it was. Let me use a line, a cool little green line. I think the distance, if I check it just to be sure, pretty sure it's, yeah, oh my gosh. It's about 224 from the left. So I'll make a note of that with black. 224 and 288 from the top. So give it a red line. I don't know if all this is truly necessary, but it'll actually, I do think it might help break down what's going on. So that's about 288 from the top, 224 from the left, where this camera field is. And what this script is doing, let me get out of that. Why am I in that? Go back. Since the rover on the map, it's using map coordinates, and all of the fields over here are using screen coordinates. So you can't check the rover's X position and compare it to a field position, because if the rover is at, you know, say X, if its X position is 1300 on the map, you know, almost all the way over here, and you tell it to just set a field to 1300 to the rover's X position, it's gonna shove it all the way over here to where 1300 is on the interface, the interface's coordinates. So it's using the screen coordinates, but it'll put it 1300 pixels this way, which will end up being off the interface entirely. So that's not what you want to do. There's some math there. So what this is checking is a value that I can first check is dividing this camera field in half gives me 320. So it's checking a distance between the center point of the camera. I don't know exactly. Let me use another green. Actually, let me use blue. So it's checking from the very center of the camera and giving me a distance to the edge, which this distance here is actually the same distance that the camera stops panning. Once the rover gets to this distance, it's actually 320 pixels from the edge of the map. And that's basically determined by the camera size. So where the camera stops panning with the rover is actually based on its dimensions. So when you're 320 pixels from the edge of the map, it's also the same value that you get by dividing this camera in half. So whenever it's less than that, say the rover's X position is 48, it can actually position the field by subtracting, or adding, not subtracting, by adding the rover's position to the position of the camera. So this is hard to explain. Since the actor or the rover, let's say you have like, I don't know, a character on the map, and it's somewhere in between. Ooh, stop changing the color of my lines. The rover's about here on the map. That's about, 64 pixels from the edge of the map. It's just going to check this. This is where it is also on the screen, technically. So it'll take the actor and its X position and add it to the position that the camera is. So the edge of the camera here is at position 224 on the interface. The screen coordinate of the camera is 224. And it's just going to add it to the rover's X position, which on the map, let's say was 64 is what I said it was. So 224 plus 64 is about 288. So it'll actually center the overlay to, this is 224, 288 would be about here, and it'll actually move the overlay and position it over the rover. So the second part that was more tricky is getting the right edge, because you actually have to check the size of the map first, and you want to see if the rover's X position is greater. So this one here is checking if the rover's position, the first condition is checking if you're close enough to the left edge of the map by checking whether the rover's position is less than this distance here. So if the rover's position is less than 320, which is, it starts right at the center of the camera. So that's where it's checking to the left of. For the right side, we're checking this distance over here. It's also going to be 320. But since the rover's position will be much higher, if you're on the map and you drive all the way across, so if the rover's over here at position 64 and then drives over here to position 1300, that's the same thing as going from 64 all the way to 1300 over here on the interface, and it'll actually move that overlay off the interface. That's not what I want to do. So you have to do a little bit of calculation here by checking the size of the map, and you can say map this or map main, map whatever your actor is. You're going to take the size of the map, which in this case is 1600, and then you want to subtract the size of the camera. From here, you want to subtract the size or the width of the camera divided by 2. So we're going to actually be checking the width of the map, which is 1600, and subtracting half the size of the camera. So that's 320. We'll take the width of the map minus 320, which would be 1600 minus 320, gives us 1280. And then that's subtracted from the size of the map itself. So the size of the map subtracting the size of the, oh my gosh, the camera field. Size of the map minus the size of the camera divided by 2. I can't talk tonight. I'm so sorry. So 1600 minus 320, which gives us this value, 1280. So if it is greater than 1280, which would be about here on the map or so, it's close enough to 1300, I can still use the same example. So if it's close enough to the edge of the map, past this position, greater than 1280, that means that the rover is now on this side of the camera field. And let me just get another little blue dot. That means the rover's somewhere over here. In this case, we want to take the rover's X position, which we said was about 1300-ish, and subtract the size of the map from that, which gives us a negative number, I believe. Let me make sure that yeah. So if the rover is at 1300 and we're subtracting 1600 from that, we get negative 300. Then from that, we also subtract the size of the camera, not divided by 2, but the full size of the camera, which would be 600. That gives us negative 900. This is insane to think about. I don't remember why it's negative, but it is basically all this math here. The first thing that it's going to do is subtract the size of the map. Let me do this in the order of operations correctly because I'm confusing myself. It'll take the size of the map, which is 1600, subtract the size of the camera, which is 600. So we're left with 1000. This is in Paint here. It's going to be the size of the map minus the size of the camera field, which is 640. So 1600. This is a lot of math, I'm so sorry. 1600 minus 640. I think I did this one wrong. Yeah. Minus 640. That leaves us with 960, which is still in the interface. It's not off screen. But then you take the actor's position and subtract this number from it. We get a much smaller number. So if the actor's position was, what did I say, 1300? 1300 minus 960 gives us 340, which at this point will be somewhere over here on our interface, a little bit past where it was before, because this is about 288, so 340. We'd move it about here, so it needs to be scooted over this way. And so the final thing that we do is add the position of the camera. So since the position of the camera is oriented in the corner, it's going to add 224, I think it was. Yeah, 224, which gives us our final position. So 340 plus 224 gives a position of 564 on the interface, which will be right about here. Should have used a line. Be about here. 544 on the interface will be right about here. So that was probably super confusing, but you can take a peek at that math there if you want. And finally, the final step is if it's centered, if the rover is not near the right edge, not near the left edge, then just place the overlay at the same position as the camera center. So to find the center of the camera and its position, first we got to get the position that it's at. So this X position we know already has 224 because it's 224 pixels from the left edge of the interface. And then since we want to find the center point of that, you have to take its size, which is 640, and divide it by 2, giving you 320. So 224 plus 320. 224 plus 320. 544, which I guess I can actually check. Get away, get away, get away. Yep, perfectly centered in the map here is position 544. And then the only other thing left for that was to do the same exact thing in the Y, retrieve Y position. Sometimes I just kind of scoot things together. It's not super important to do scooting, but sometimes I like the way it looks, like little jellyfish flowcharts. So the same exact thing as before, only it's checking. Pretty much you could copy paste the X script and just change every X into a Y. That's really the only difference, is everything is a Y. So all that's going to do is position the overlay to wherever the rover is on the screen. And I want to save that just in case I did something weird. Like add comments if I don't want to forget to save my interface.
Scanning. Entering plan.
Aw. Goodness, go away. And that's all it was to get it to move an interface field to exactly where the actor is on the map. Now, the big issue, as I pointed out earlier, is the way that it cuts off right here. That is not at all what I want it to do. So this is where my struggle begins with Genetica. Genetica Studio, one of my favorite tools of all time. In order for this effect to be complete, I do need to increase the size of this animation, or this layer. Because it goes off screen every time you get near the edge of the map, and I don't ever want that to happen. So I'm going to open my static, my visibility overlay. So the two of these, the static and my lighting, are using the same exact gradient, so that I can keep the same hole in the center. And I wanted to adjust that gradient a little bit because it's not, it's a bit too bright for some reason. I'm not really sure why it's doing that to me, but I'll increase full transparent there. See if changing that just a little bit. 192. Okay, I kind of smoothed that out just a little bit. I want it to be pretty obscured, but not horribly. So I wonder if I can. Ah, there. Okay. I want these to be the same. 811. Let's just even it out to 810. And I'll try that. Now the tricky part that I have to do here is I have to first increase the size of everything. So my render is 1280 in width, which this is going to suck. I actually don't think I want to do this, because it's 1280 in width, which means I need to shrink the size of my gradient at the center. Not transform 3D. It's actually not going to be as simple as I was hoping it would be. First, I'd have to increase the width, or I believe just the width animation to 4. That way it would duplicate this across the entire thing 4 times, which would make sense once it's zoomed in more on the interface. But also, since it's going to be twice the height that I want it to be, that's going to be a pain in the butt to crop down. But I also want this sphere in the center to be half the size of what it is. So I'm trying to think of how I would like to do this. It might take a little bit of experimenting for me to center it. To get it 1/2. Then I want to cover that. I don't even think I need this as a reference. I just need a a circular selection that is smaller. It's been a while since I've tried to isolate an element like this, so bear with me. Now, that gives me a smaller circle in the center. I'm not sure if that's going to be the right size or not. But I think that's what I want, because I want, let me check. Line. Okay, I'm kind of going off of these ripples here. And then something else. I might have to redo some of my static. These, I like the lines. They do seem a bit repetitive when they're just constantly on the interface. So I might try and interlace it with some other like glitchy effects or something, but we'll see. So the first thing I want to try is just rendering a still frame. Oh, come on, you turd. So I have this huge graphic. Huge, that's absolutely massive. I hate this. I do not like this at all. Huge static is what I'll call this one. Do not like this workaround. This is a tough one. So I'll come back into my already probably bogged down with memory issues abandonware program, World Creator. I'm going to resave my world viewer file here really quickly. Go to my train tiles. Ooh, don't exit that. First of all, I want to restart that. Since it's abandoned software, there hasn't been any patches or updates in many years. So now there's some issues with memory. After a while, it starts to get really laggy and weird. So here's where everything gets annoying. The first thing I have to test. Huge static, that's what I'm looking for. There you are. Look how massive that is. It also doesn't include the transparency, so it's interesting that it just gives me a huge static like that. Now, in 001 has a little built-in sprite editor, and this is, I might crash the program by doing all of these. We'll see. But in order to get it to be a reasonable size, it's not even really a reasonable size. This is probably the biggest animation file I've even tried to make. Golly, goddamn. Okay, so that's a bit crazy. Set that to an overlay. I do want to edit it. Resize the canvas. And 1280 minus 320 will give me 960. So I want to resize it to 960 first. And then I want to select all and flip it vertically before I resize the canvas again to 640. Then I'll control all and flip it back. So, good God, that's huge. That is a huge graphic. Okay, static overlay. So it says Sprite. I'll just call this temp static, so I can just give it a dumb name, temp static. And holy moly, first thing I want to try is changing this to my temp static just to make sure that it's working right before I do all the tedious importing of individual frames and all that. Where's my storage folder? It's all at the top. Temp static. Holy. Okay. So that gives me this big, huge, gigantic. Oops. Yeah. So the circle in the middle might be slightly different, but I will actually have to edit the other gradient first before this will work. But at the moment, I just want to make sure that this overlay, oh my gosh, I just want to make sure that this overlay stays within the boundaries of the camera when you're too close to the edge. Oh man, I just wish there was an easier way to do that.
Entering planetary orbit.
Ta-da. Okay. So it does maintain distance from the edge there. It's not animated. It looks really dumb right now. Let's turbo mode up to the top here. There. Okay. Now to quickly fix the other bit, get this over here. Why don't I keep that inside here? Let's get rid of that. That's just slowing stuff down. You can go as well. Okay. So I'm just gonna actually, yeah, I'll make a reference copy here. So I can drag this guy over here and plop that in there and render quickly this little sphere. So I don't know, I think that it's going to do the same kind of thing. I actually might want to blur my gradient first. Let me try a little bit of a blur. And then we'll get rid of that. And reference copy that. Maybe. It might make it look too dark. Let's actually jump back out here to the blur. Make it a little bit less. So 5. And back in. Yeah, that's a little better. That's so massive, that's ridiculous. Okay. Huge light. Yikes. I don't know if I've ever done a graphic this big before, but this is the only way that I think I know how it would work. So I'll do that same set of Control-All resizing that I just did with the static. So I'll resize the canvas to 960, Control-All, flip vertically, resize the canvas to 640. Oops, why did it do that? There we go. And Control-All, just in case there's any weird pixels. I don't know. No real reason to flip it back, but I want that to be an overlay, and I want to put that in the idle pose here. Temp light. And I'll just rename that to lighting overlay. We'll change this lighting field. So that is now using the temp lighting field. Customize Twitch Studio. Oh my gosh, what? Stop it. Actually had a viewer pop in yesterday for the first time while I'm streaming.
Entering planetary.
But that's okay, first time for everything. Okay, so now that they're both lined up, doesn't do any weird brightening. I actually think I do like that better. Now, did I get the spacing right here? So it's going to look a little bit different than the static that's first there. I think the scale might be slightly different. I think I got the sizing right. I just had to duplicate the size of the tiling of the texture by 4. I think? Yeah, because I want it to be 320 by 320 times 4. Okay, yeah. I'm just doing math in my head. Ignore everything I'm saying. So then now the hard part, or the dumb part, the tedious part. I'm going to actually save this first as back in my, oh my goodness, visibility overlay large. So I'll just put 1280 just to remind myself. And now 1280 has to be a big, gigantic animation. Yeesh. Okay, so now I have this huge, massive static animation. We're gonna just make it a new folder. In my animations folder. Static overlay 1280 by 1280. Yikes. So I'll just call it actually, did I have a visibility overlay folder? No, I did not. So go back in there. I'll just call it static overlay or interference overlay, I think. Stop that from playing. Okay, now the horrible part. Come back over here. I'm actually going to get rid of this one. Grab this out of the walking pose, put it in the idle pose, because walking pose, if you use it on a field, it won't animate. You've got to put it in the idle pose for it to animate on an interface. Now I want to add files. This is oh, this is gonna suck. It might take a little bit to import all these. I'm not really sure. These are massive. They're the biggest files I think I've ever imported. It's going to import 32 of them. It's going to sit here and freeze up and act ridiculous. Okay, while it's doing that, get out of this guy, save a little bit of memories. Oh, look at that. It's who knows what's happening here. So, it failed to import all of the images, which that's not too surprising. So I'm going to delete this frame. Try that one more time. It might not work because they're huge. You know it's frozen when this little ticker isn't working. Okay, so it'll import 1, 2, 3, about 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, about half of them, which isn't right. It's not what I want. Not what I want. So let me see if it'll let me just do it one by one, which is going to suck quite a bit. And we'll do this quickly. Flip. Flip. This could take forever. I'm so sorry. 960. Flip. 640. Flip. Oh my goodness. 30 more times. Isn't that joyous? 960. Flip. 640. Flip. Frame number 4. Oh my goodness. 960. Flip. 640. Flip. Not quite good enough because it repeats. So, I was wondering if maybe I could import less of these frames, but maybe I can't. Just keep repeating these steps over and over and over and over. And number 6, 6. Oh man. Oh yeah, I forgot to reflip you. Flip. Blue. And more. 960. Flip. 640. Flip. And since it's off center, just put it back in the middle here. I might actually have to import all my frames. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. That hopefully looks wonderful in the end, or at least decent. I just hope I don't hate it when I'm done. Could probably make a simpler static for this. Oh my god. And the worst part is I probably will after I've done all this. Isn't that hilarious? Oh, what? No. I messed up and forgot to tick a box. Oh, hey, look at that. Okay, so it doesn't like images that are 1280 by 1280. And you'll notice it just totally crashed. Pooh. Interestingly, I don't think that's an issue that's inherent to 001. It's the Sprite editor library that I think was used for 001. Duty. I lost all that work. Well then, let's come up here. I could just use my noisy static. I like my layers here. Let me blur them a bit so there's a little bit less. I only want to blur it vertically. Let's try bigger number. Even smaller. So now, let me see what this looks like with 8 frames. Pretty staticky. Okay, so I might have better luck with a smaller number of frames since I won't have to import 32 of them. This is just going to be a test. Oh, I'm so sad about that. Go back into my animations. Visibility overlay large 1280. And I want to delete this one. I just want to see if it will import. Actually, one thing I can do, rather than trying to edit it all inside a semi-glitchy sprite editor, it's a really good sprite editor, I promise. Just sometimes has issues with larger images, so what I want to do is open all those. Go into my animations. And I want to open all of them. And I want to change the canvas size so that it is 640, but I want this to remain halfway, so it should be set to -320 on the y-axis there, I believe. And boop! The layer size. Quickly I can do a layer to image size. And then I can just redo this for each. I want them to be 640, offset by 320. Resize. I can just layer to image size. And for each of these, I can just overwrite. This way I don't risk killing 001 while I'm working in the sprite editor. And layer to image size, overwrite. Do the same thing for each of these. It's going to take a while. Layer to image size. See, there's 4. Okay. I think I did that right. I think I did everything correct here. For my animation to at least work reasonably. Oh, what am I doing? Losing my train of thought. I'm trying to think of some other stuff. right. Canvas size. Uno mas. Image canvas size. Height 640. Offset by -320. Layer to image size. Overwrite. Okay, now close out of this. Wait, first I'm going to make sure it saved everything. It sure did. Don't tell me there's stuff I need to save, because there it is. And don't need my calculator. Okay, let's brave the import process. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Got my 8 frames. Nice and staticky. And I'll save it so I don't lose it. Make an overlay. And try one more time. Now I have a nice animated overlay here. I might have to, oh, maybe not.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
Good. There we go. That's actually much nicer. Check the positioning. I wouldn't say it's perfect, because perfect would be a nice transparent mask moving around on a non-moving static animation, but that's the only way to work around that I know of at the moment. Now if I switch through the different planet types I have, just let them load up and see the static interference on different biomes and what you'd be able to see and stuff. Harder to see that there's smoke when the static is going. It's unlikely that you'll be on a radiated lava world unless I feel like it. Unless you can still tell you're in a desert with sandstorms. And I do think sandstorms might interfere with navigation a little bit, as well as radiation, but it won't cause radiation damage. But sandstorms should make it harder to pinpoint where things are. There's not going to be disruptive snowstorms like that, I don't think, but it will get super cold and the rover can get hurt. And then the radiated planets should have some mild effect to extreme. This is probably the more extreme radiation levels or interference levels. So I'm not 100% certain yet. Take a look at my hazards list here. You can see on the statistics over here I've got the planet type, which will determine like the biomes, the temperature temperature is going to be mostly playing a part in the climate rating. So the higher the temperature is, the more extreme the hot temperature weather will be. The lower the temperature, it could still have extreme climate in lower temperatures, but the closer it is to a temperate or like habitable planet, the lower the climate rating is likely to be. There's also, depending on, I'm not 100% sure if I'm connecting these or just kind of making a suggested connection that there's a real relation between the mass and size of the planets. I don't know if I'm going to do anything that realistic, but the tectonics rating, which will spawn earthquakes and little area of effect zones, kind of based on the type of planet and the size and stuff. So if it's geologically active, like a volcanic planet, will probably have more tectonics than a terrestrial normal rocky planet or an icy planet. And then radiation, that's mostly going to be based on the type or events that happen, like a planet that, a species has wiped itself out or wiped each other out with nuclear weapons, or some kind of disaster, leaving an irradiated planet. That will affect things like the crew's health and your navigation. So there's going to be a mini-map as well for the surface. This is currently just showing the space map. And once you've landed on the planet, this will convert into a small map of the planet. Unless you are experiencing interference like this, then there's going to be a static field that shows up. I wonder if I can turn that on right now. There should be a mini-map static. Oh yeah, I actually have to turn it on in a different way. So those are the different effects. But I have a fourth one, atmospheric pressure, which originally was going to be some kind of like a damage over time thing. If you're on a planet with too much pressure, the rover will get crushed. However, I already have damage over time happening with temperature levels and stuff, so I actually think it might be tough to distinguish between pressure damage and temperature damage. So for now, I actually think I'm going to be scrapping the pressure rating on planets at the moment, unless I change my mind or find some reasonable way to include it as a hazard, or if anybody has any ideas how that might be something different from the other hazards. I'm just going to have climate rating, tectonics rating, and radiation for now. Temperature, I got to move some of these things around. Kind of want this further down in the list. I'll scoot these over here, scoot these up. Maybe put temperature in between. Just to kind of even out the way that the text looks. So I think I'm removing the atmospheric pressure. I don't even know if I put this in my hazards. No, I did not. So I want to try, I'm not sure exactly yet how I want to do it specifically. I want lightning. I want to do lightning, or little lightning effects. I can definitely do flashing screen stuff. First I want to make it so these are not visible all the time, so they shouldn't be initially existent. Turn off the lighting frame. Just make sure all that's actually off. No viewers tonight. Everybody's busy.
Scanning.
Those of you who've been watching or
Entering planetary
sticking
orbit.
with this continued saga, thank you for your support and for checking it out. And I really hope that I can push my way through this project, have some kind of playable demo that I can send out, and we'll see what happens. I can teleport to my other planets. So now that that static animation is smaller, I could probably use it more frequently. There's a few things I want to try as well. There is something with the circles in the middle. I want to try and stretch them so that they're more of a oblong shape, taking up like an eye shape in the center. I haven't quite figured out how I want to do that yet, or how I would do that, because I really just have to stretch a circle into an oval, but it's not a lot of good ways for me to do that. So I can use a move and repeat node to increase the size or make it smaller, but it doesn't exactly. Let me try. Oh, I got something in my eyeball. No. Two, 5. Okay, so that's sort of an eyeball-ish. I want 4, 5. No. 5, 5. 3. Oh, no. 2. Let's just stretch it out. So, let's actually grab this one here, go inside. Oh my god. I want to do it with my smaller circle, so that it's stretched out a bit. Let's see. Gives it kind of a wider area here. I don't know why it does that to me. I do want I want this one, just this frame. Come out of there. I just want to try this this graphic really quick. Let's make another one of these. Let's call it temp elong. now I have this little ovally shaped one that I can try out. Come in here, try the ovally light, make sure it's existent. What just happened? Did it hide my static? Oh, hey, why didn't it do that before? Okay, so that's just going to give me this frame. I'm going to test it and see. It should give me this darkened oval in the center. And the reason for this, I want to try to make different ratings of interference so that, you know, certain strength is almost obscuring everything, but less radiation will just obscure some of the edges. And I'll use the same kind of gradient, only blend it with static around the edges here. So I do kind of like that. So what I want to do now is come back in here, grab this guy, replace it, and plop this guy back over here. Oops. Scoot you out of the way so you don't ruin my animation. And I'll make another one of these. Static. Oop. Elongated. Elong musk. Alright, so go grab those once again. Blomp, blomp, blomp. And just quickly do that resize operation I just did. While that's doing its thing, I'll come over here. I'm going to copy this static animation, paste it, and then delete it. So I have temp static 2 will work, temp static elong. Alright. Long, 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 long. Oops. Oops. I'm messing everything up here. Oops. Override. Oh my gosh. Can't click on anything today. Resize, layer to image size, overwrite. Overwrite. 4 more. 640 minus 320. Resize, layer to image size, override. Image, canvas, 640, 320, resize, layer, image size, override. Image, canvas size, 640. Minus 320, resize, layer, image size, overwrite. Doobity doobity doo. Sometimes you have to do a lot of tedious nonsense. But this is what I'd be doing anyways, whether or not I was streaming. Excuse me. Okay, so now I have another set of animation files, elongated static, I'll align that to the center, call it static overlay, check it out, make it additive, make it an overlay, and disable the lighting. Now I'll test the static layer. I'll change that to the elongated static, set it to be existent, and boop. What's happening? Why didn't that work? Oh, I set it to the wrong static, elongated static. Now you can see there's more visibility here.
Scanning. Entering path orbit.
Alright. Now you can see more of the map, and it still looks like there's static interference everywhere. Which allows you to see more of the weather effects, more of the biome that I'm in. There's even another layer that I can bring in as an additional set of interference. It can be intermittent. I can just have it cut in and out. Might have to do some organizing of the layers to make it look correct. It's also additive, so it blends crazily. That might not work the way I want. Yeah. Okay, that's nice. I like that that range. That's a good range. That would work well for like medium range kind of severity, or medium severity of radiation. Could even be alright for sandstorm interference. These little spaces you gotta squeeze through. So, one of the things I want to fix with the rover cannon, actually add that to my to-do list here, which has grown massively. I want the weapons of the rover actually to point where you're aiming your cursor, so you can drive around and still shoot in the direction of your cursor, which right now it's just able to shoot in front of itself, and sadly with the turning that it has, it's not particularly easy to aim at things sometimes. I have found out. I think I can shoot at these pyramids. Yeah. And sometimes it just shoots right past it. So if you're trying to be quick and nimble, sometimes it's tough to just point right at something. I do want to be able to point at stuff and shoot with the mouse. But you'll still fire your weapon with your spacebar. Currently right-clicking tells you tile names, which shouldn't be showing descriptions, but descriptions are stored in the tile names. I'll explain that again in another video, I think. And coupled with these scanline effects, I really like this fake TV look. I can mess with it a little bit. If I set a pose length, let's say pose length of 3. I'm just going to do some experimenting here. In the middle here, turn down the opacity just a little bit, not by much. And I'll crank it back up. So this kind of fade thing. Don't know if that'll look nice or not, but it might. That's one way you can kind of combine animation types. You can import a sequence of animated images, and then you can use the sequence editor in 001 to add transparency or rotation or positioning with animation tweening.
Entering planetary orbit.
Dims a little bit too much for me, but adding a different type of animation like the movement and color change or transparency change and stuff, sometimes it can help with some of the monotony, just the static animation looping over and over, because it's looping at a different rate than the transparency is changing. I do like the dimming. I just think I need to make it a little bit less pronounced. Jump back in here to the middle frame. Crank this back up a little bit to 216 or so maybe. Yeah, so it's barely noticeable, but still there. So the recap of all of that, really, in order to have an overlay that you can move around with your character, it actually has to be double the height and width of your camera field. So since my camera field is 640 by 320, this is actually 1280 by 640. So it's double the size, so it can move in all directions to just the boundary of the map. So if it moves by 1/2, it'll actually still be covering the map in every direction, or covering the camera in every direction. And put that back. And for now, when you're in game, I don't want these to show up just yet. I want those to appear whenever there's hazards and stuff. So I'm trying to contemplate how I want to do lightning bolts. I'm going to my tools folder. Not sure which tool I want to use. Pixel tool is a converter. Pixel Composer is really great too. That might be one for me to try, but I'm not very great with Pixel Composer quite yet. It's sort of a node-based texture creation tool that works like Genetica, only it's specifically for pixel art, which is really fascinating. And I can't import effects here, particle effects. I don't really want to draw my own lightning bolt. I don't want to use Tilemancer to make tiles. Oh, which tool would be perfect for this? I may not have even downloaded the pixel tool that I used to use. Well, I'll just have to do some experiments. So in my weather, I'll create a new sprite. Just call it FX lightning strike. I don't actually know how I really want to do this yet. I know I want the strikes to be somewhere between 64 and 92 or 96 pixels. So I'll start with just a little canvas. That's 32 by 64. And just kind of draw some crappy lightning bolts. It's not going to be amazing. It might not even look like a lightning bolt. I don't know. So I kind of want to add a couple more blank images. So I don't think I want to fade anything in and out. I'll leave this at 1. I want four or five different bolts here that kind of zap around. Oh, no, I want to erase that. Oh, why does it do that? Alright. Don't know why it does that sometimes. No. god, why is it doing that? There we go. Yeah. They're a little bit thicker than I want. I just want a couple of these different bolt shapes. I'll actually make this one go this way. Kind of. That should have a collision, so for looking at it from the top, I want the collision box to be the size of the rover, or just about the size of the rover. Maybe even half the size. It's just gonna zap the rover. 16, 16. And from the top, however, do you want it to face X, and it has to look like this so that it's animating like it's coming from above the rover. So that's one lightning bolt. I might have to make several of these. And which of these is the funky looking one of them? How does it look with smooth scaling? Not much different. Okay. I'm going to cut that out of the walking pose and put it in the idle pose. I might actually make a hazards folder for the light surface hazards. So my lightning bolt will probably be something like this. And it's got to spawn as an actor. I'm still not 100% sure how I want to do this, but if the two, it should have a probability to spawn at the same position as the rover and strike the rover, which I will find out exactly how this works. Kind of winging this one. Just want to create a new actor template parent, weather hazard. And for now I don't have an icon or anything, but underneath that I want to make a new one and call it lightning strike. And since I won't ever actually be manually placing them on the map, I don't actually need any of these can be placed on a map. This is where you click on the actor button while you're editing a map, but I don't need to place it on a map at any point ever, I don't believe. I don't need it to have any speed. It should be able to strike or be positioned on water. It doesn't actually have to have a team, but I'll just leave it as bad because it is a bad guy. And Doesn't need any form of speeds, no exits or anything. Ooh. I'll give it the body of my weather sprite, which is under thunderstorm. And since it's white, you can actually change the color, give it more. I could color it yellow. Maybe I'll just leave it yellow at the moment. Lightning strike will be yellow. I just want to try a few different things. I don't know exactly. Go with actor distance. Change this map to actor rover.map. So to check the map that the rover is currently on, I want to use this actor and I would say relate, but I'm not sure it will actually check every single actor or not. So for now, I'm just going to set it to the rover. Or just rover, I mean. Geometry distance between this and the rover is less than 32. Actually, maybe 16. I'm not sure. I'll have to do some experimenting, and we'll just say flash the rover. So whenever they're next to each other, close enough, or if this spawns close enough to the rover, it'll flash the rover. Just got to try a couple things to experiment. Make sure things work, make sure things look right. So I'll place a lightning bolt actor on the map. Where is it? Weather hazard. Where are my weather hazards? Where's my lightning bolts? What? Just made it. Oh yeah, I can't place it on a map because I'm a Dumbo. For now, I'll allow it. I'll allow it to be placed on the map. Oh, you turd. Why? Why won't you update to have the lightning bolt as your body? Okay, well, since it won't let me, I have to do it myself by detaching it from the template. Okay, so now we can sort of see that it's going to be stuck through the wall tiles, so if it strikes, it'll be in a wall tile. So I kind of want to make that an overlay, I believe. Instead of face X, I'm going to set it to overlay. That way it'll appear on top of everything. And the other funky thing that it's doing here is casting a shadow. Not what we want, so even in the template we can change those settings with the graphic options. Don't want it to have a shadow. Don't want it to have any tint or opacity or whatever. So I'm just going to see if driving near it or close enough to it causes the rover to flash.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
And I can't get close enough to it, apparently. Also, why is that not working, even though I am close enough to it? Oh, that didn't work. Oh, because the trigger's not there. I'm not sure why. File changes and placed actors. Let's get rid of him. Put a new one. It's still not giving me any of the stuff that I set up over here, which is annoying. So, since it's being silly, I don't know why it's not passing any of my triggers through. I gotta build it myself over here. How frustrating. Okay, well, first I want to see if that works. The distance. Oh, 1 moment. Got derailed by a work call for a second. Okay, let's try this again. Now that I know that it's got the trigger in it, I don't know why it didn't pass from the actor template, which it should have. Sometimes I miss a single little detail somewhere, do something wrong.
Entering planetary orbit.
Alright. It flashes if you get close enough to it. Okay. So these I kind of they shouldn't stay on the map once they're done doing what they do. This is going to be tricky. So once it's actually done with its animation, it should disappear. So it only plays an animation for a very short time. I want to delete the actor. I want to copy this over here. I really don't know why it's not. Let's stick all these in the base actor. Default actor should be set to lightning strike. Set to yellow. create a new one. I don't know why it's not passing anything over. That's kind of irritating. It's all set. And if it doesn't work like that, then I don't know how I'm supposed to spawn them. So I'll set a little timer here. Let's say that runs every 2 seconds. That's going to create an actor using the lightning strike template. And it'll just call it, what we want to do is give it a random number, random whole number, and we'll just say 1 in 1,000, between 1 and 1,000. I'll just call it lightning and math.random. So I'll call it lightning, and then it'll just give it a random number every time. And the position that we want it to be in, I'll have to figure out in a different way, but I want it to be near the rover. So I want to use the actor's position the rover's X position. And just to, since I can't do anything fancy at the moment, give it a math.random between 0 and 256. I'll do the same thing here with the Y. So it'll basically it should spawn lightning to the right and south of the rover at this point. If it works. So cut this. I just needed to randomly spawn lightning first.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
See that it's doing something. Spawning little lightning strikes in random spots. And we want it to play a little sound effect whenever it does. I've got this convenient little lightning strike sound that I've made.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
Okay, so that's working as intended. I want to increase the pitch of that just a little bit. Maybe 14 or 15. And maybe flash the screen for a very short amount of time. Maybe twice. or random. One or two times. Why do I have two? Why do I have two orbit maps? Oh yeah, just kidding. Okay. So now we'll kind of flash the screen and play a sound effect. I should add a small delay between the flash and the lightning strike. Think.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
Oh, I didn't reconnect it. Oops.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
It's a bit frequent. It will actually be more infrequent than this. So for a temporary fix to my positioning problem, I'll make some probability stuff here using a chance branch. So 50% it'll go to the left and up. Actually, I want more than that. Random probabilities. These will be probability weights. Let's just give them each equal weights. 20, 20, 20, 20. Because I want. This is a temporary fix. I'm going to have all four combinations of this. Minus, plus. So it's going to be plus, plus, minus, plus, minus, minus, and plus, minus. So this will just pick random locations around the rover. I'm going to do this differently, I think, by generating coordinates to spawn at instead of 4 actor events here, but this will kind of do what I want for now. And it should spawn the lightning in different places around the rover. Now, the way I can change this even more so is these are all doing a range of 0 to 256, and then I can give it another weight of say 10. And once in a while it'll just strike the rover, or it should spawn it at the rover's location. Take out this initial delay. And since I'm not using it as a spawner, I have to give it my own unique IDs.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
Now the lightning should spawn all over the place around the rover. We'll see how long it takes before one actually hits it. There we go. Not very long. See if it'll hit it again. Yep. So, depending on the severity of the weather on the map, will determine the frequency of lightning strikes. And having it so it sometimes strikes the rover means there's an ever-present danger of being struck by the lightning, and no guarantee that you'll always be able to dodge it. It's just a random chance that you'll get hit, but there is a chance that it spawns near the rover close enough to damage it without it spawning at the same position. But when it does, you can't move. You get shocked into, because the two collisions are joining into each other. The rover cannot move, so it already by default slows the rover down for a second when it gets hit. And it can strike anywhere on the map. So the reason I want to figure out more scripting to pick coordinates is I don't want it to be able to spawn on top of walls. I'm not sure yet if that's the case. I only want it to hit ground tiles, but that's an easy enough condition to set up. And then the very last thing to do would be to just add the damage calculation in. The final touch could be a little bit of smoke coming out of the tip wherever it strikes. Which I could add. I'll add an animation, a single blank image. Let's say one image that's 5 by 5. Center it, and I'll just color in some yellow, a little bit of orange, maybe. Make kind of a little spark looking thing. And since the pose rate's already set to pretty low, the particle, it should burst out pretty quickly. Might want it to be the same as my lifetime here. We want it to fade out as it bursts. We do want it to shoot upwards. Pretty quickly. And then, by limiting the amount to something smaller, you can produce these bursts. Don't quite know how that's going to look yet in game, but double it maybe. I'll just give that a shot and see. Some spam. Thanks, Rock Unicorn. I love spam.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
Now just see if the sparks fly from the bottom. Yeah. They might be a little bit too big. And it deletes itself too quickly. So let's go back in here and change this to 0.5. And that particle is actually pretty big. I want to turn that back down to 100. Why didn't that fix? The last little particle would be a little tuft of smoke rising up from the ground.
Scanning. Entering planetary.
And of course, I'm going to add randomization to the timing. .256 might be a bit of a large range. Also, I want this to be smaller. It's a bit big. Okay. A lot of tiny adjustments can be really tedious.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
That's a little better. could even set the sparks to be additive so they glow a little bit. And there's always more I can do to the graphics to make it look nicer. I could add a little tuft of clouds at the top of the lightning bolts. Just depends. It's a really nice effect where it slows you down when you get hit. I like that a lot. Oof. So, using the weighted probabilities or random probabilities branch, you can set. I'm not sure what the max number is, but the largest number will be prioritized the most, and I think it might be out of 100 or something. But the smaller the number, like if you give it a probability weight of 5, it'll almost never hit the rover. But if you use the same number, it'll give it the same priority, of choosing that path, but it's just based on these numbers, and you can have it do the same one multiple times in a row, or force it to change and do a different one each time. So if you have it set to same, it allows it to do the same consecutive, so it can pick probability 1 twice in a row. And if you set it to different, it'll force it to pick a different one each time. So same is probably a good way to go if you want it to have something like a single attack that once in a while hits the rover. So there will also be, depending on the weather severity, this number will also increase. So the rover could get hit more often. And right now that's a pretty decent little system. I'm going to move it from a timer and put it somewhere else, most likely into a loop of some kind, so that whenever you're on the map, it just runs in a loop. But yeah, that's a couple things I wanted to get knocked out. I can cross those off my to-do list as well. Add lightning strikes. I actually don't think I put them in here. Earthquakes. No. Thought maybe I'd added that. Add terrain. And I changed that to a little X since I've done it. Save my to-do list. So that's a couple different effects. Adding overlays and some weather stuff like spawning lightning strikes on the map. Excuse me. And next time I'm probably going to go ahead and try and do the earthquake animation. It's just based on the old Star Control games. It spawns a little tectonic ripple that causes an area of an effect. The lightning strikes have to hit the rover directly, but the tectonics, I believe, hit in a radius around them, so they'll spawn and damage anything that's touching any of the squares around it. I'll get to that in the next video. Hopefully I covered some stuff that was useful or interesting, how to make these different overlays and some progress on the game. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, probably jump back on tomorrow. If I find some time tonight, I'll get back on tonight and just keep going from there. And like always, go to screamingbrainstudios.com to get all of your free game development stuff. Lots of textures to use for 3D objects, lots of backgrounds to use for games, lots of tile sets to build maps with, lots of interface elements to do things with. Excuse me. There's also a bunch of old school tutorials for making isometric textures, making 2D planets, making space backgrounds, doing textures for planets. And if you don't have any stuff to work with, any tools, The tools page is full of free things, free utilities, free procedural generation, graphic tools, there's terrain generators, there's all kinds of stuff. And you can become a patron for just $1. You get a special thanks credit and a bunch of free assets, patron-only downloads and stuff. But all of this stuff is totally public domain for you to use however you want. I forget to throw that in there sometimes. Until next time, thank you for stopping by and watching.